Guys, Ryan from Husky Moving here, Arlington, Massachusetts, serving the greater Boston area. We are a full-service residential and commercial moving company. We do all sorts of odd jobs. We do handyman work, TV and artwork mounting. We do power washing. We do, what else do we do? Disposal, I think I mentioned that. Want to talk to you guys real quickly today about a situation that happened to a friend of mine the other day. And I'm not going to mention any names or anything. He is also in the moving slash assembly world. And he called the other day for a situation that's completely unrelated to this, but we just started shooting shit. And this is one of the things that came up. He was on a job the other day with one of the guys that's one of his coworkers, his like employee. And at the end of the job, the guy made a comment as they were doing the bill. The like owner gave the customer the total for the bill, and the employee said something in front of the customer that said was something along the lines of, "Wow, you are more expensive than so and so. You are significantly more expensive than some other dude that they had been talking about before they got to the job." Whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. And it gave me an idea for this video, which was just being really wary of what you say in front of customers. I can't believe what I've heard people say in front of customers over the years, where I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like I don't know where your head's at right now, why you would say something like that. Shocking things that just, we're trying to present a certain image. We're trying to have a situation go in a certain way where we want to dictate where the situation goes in a very stressful time. And then you take this one comment just because someone's not thinking, and you literally just throw a match on gasoline. And the comment that this kid made, I don't think, if I had to guess, I don't think he probably meant any ill will by it. He more than likely was probably very tired from the job and just wasn't thinking, and was chatting with a friend of his and kind of didn't give it a second thought. But unfortunately, that kind of a comment, it's not good. It leaves you putting a bad taste in a customer's mouth at the very end of a job where theoretically they should have nothing but good things. If you've done your job correctly, they should have nothing but good things to say about you. Even what I've found, even with customers, is even when they think the bill is high, if they've had a good experience with the entire move, if everything got done properly and they found you to be good guys and you were, fun, you made it as fun as you can, given that it's a move or an assembly job, whatever the case may be, they tend to be happy at the end of the job, mainly because nothing went wrong, and they had the stress related to what needed to be done, and now the stress is taken off their back, and nothing, if you did your job properly, not only did you do it, you did it in a way that made it like kind of as fun as it could be. Or at least as painless as it could be. So people are actually pretty relieved. But if you say something like that when you're walking out the door, now you've like put this little kernel of thought in someone's mind of like, wait, did I just like overpay for this? Like, what, did I just get screwed? Like, why would he say that? And it's just a terrible thing to like, to me, that's like pulling the pin on a hand grenade and throwing it in a room right as you're walking out the door. Like, why the fuck would you say that? My friend was actually pretty, I don't want to say he was heated about it. He was definitely concerned, and he definitely talked to the kid about it. And actually, without blowing up too much of the situation, because I want to be careful about what I reveal about the situation, just because I consider him a friend, they talked about it, and it was kind of decided that this gentleman wasn't going to be in the room anymore when payments were being discussed, because it wasn't, a couple of reasons. A, it's none of his business. And B, because clearly he couldn't be trusted to kind of keep his yapper shut, which, I'm sure my friend said it in a much more professional way than that, but like that's the reality of what was going on. Realistically, if I'm hiring someone, if I get hired on a job and I'm then hiring someone else to be my partner in that job, what the final bill comes to is none of that person's concern. Me and the customer have an agreement that's between us, and me and the employee have an agreement that's between us, and the two spectrums of that don't necessarily have anything to do with each other. And so in that instance, my friend decided that realistically there was no reason for that person to be in the room anymore, because he had kind of made a really dumb comment. And so the video is not necessarily about that comment in particular. It's more just about being real careful about what you say in front of customers. Like, I can't tell you how many times I catch myself where I'll start to say something and be like, wait, don't say that. Don't say that. Um, projecting an air of calmness. Sometimes when people ask you like some version of like, how you doing? Are you tired? Are you stressed? You getting through this okay? And you want to generally project an air of calm and be like, you would never want to say, oh my God, like I'm dying right now. I don't think I'm going to be able to get through this. Obviously, you'd be like, no, I'm okay. Tough day. It's hot out for sure, but I'm okay. We'll get through it. Um, I've had guys that will quote unquote like under me talk about tipping in front of customers, which I think is a terrible idea. I don't see why you would ever do that. That to me is like, if I was on the other end of it and guys were talking about getting tipped on previous jobs in front of me, I'd be like, oh, well, that's their way of like telling me I got a tip too, which I think is like, puts them in the customer in a shitty situation. Terrible idea. You would never want to comment on the bill at the end of the day, whether you thought it was high, low, anything. None of your business. Just keep your mouth shut. What someone chooses to charge for their services is none of your concern unless you're the person paying the bill or you're the person receiving the bill. Other than that, you're not involved in it. So keep your mouth shut. There would be no comment to talk about that. You obviously wouldn't want to talk about the cleanliness or lack thereof of someone's house. You'd be surprised. I've heard someone in front of customers talk about how disgusting the house was, and I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, we all know it's disgusting. We don't need to say that in front of a customer. That's just a terrible look, and honestly, it makes them feel like shit. Like, we're not trying to make people feel like shit. Half the jobs I go into are fucking, on some level, are a bit of a clusterfuck. Whether it's the cleanliness, the lack of preparation, whatever the case may be, a little bit of a cluster. It's the moving business. It is what it is. I'm more surprised when I show up to a house and they're like completely ready to go than I am if I show up to a house and it's a shit show. The shit show is the norm. The completely ready to go is the exception to the rule. So you get used to it. But you would never want to like comment on something like that. You would never want to comment on like someone's situation about like their property, for example. If like they had like a giant walk, you never want to be like complaining or like making them feel guilty about something like that. And you can certainly talk to them about it and be like how long do you think it's going to take? And you'd be like, oh, I think it's going to take a long time. It's a giant walk. It just is what it is. I mean, there's no way to get around it. Like that's completely acceptable, but you would never want to be like complaining in front of the people about like the walk or like the circumstances, the move. That's why you're there, to deal with the shitty circumstances. If the person wanted to deal with them, they wouldn't have hired you, obviously. They don't want to deal with them, which is why you have a job that you get paid for. What else have I heard people say where I was like, please don't do that. Talking about the management of the company, I've heard a lot of people do. They'll do that in front of customers. They'll talk about like, I used to work for like other moving companies where I wasn't in charge. I wasn't the owner. And I've heard guys talk about their bosses in front of the customer. And if I'm being honest with you, I was guilty of that too. I've done that before in the past. I think when I shouldn't say this, I'm probably retelling the story in a way that it didn't actually happen. I think I tried to be like kind of funny about it, like make it a joke. But I've definitely heard guys, and I know I've done it too, where I've kind of like laid my shit onto the customer before, where you like complain about the management structure above you and how you're being treated, or the way the jobs are being booked, or that kind of stuff undermines the entire organization. And so if you're there, you think that you're like, in your mind, you're shitting on someone that's not even in the room, 10 miles away, can't hear you, but what it's really doing is it's crumbling the structure of the entire organization, meaning like pulling down the foundation of the trust that this person has given to you guys as an entire company. And I think sometimes people forget that they think that their own actions are just like, I think my actions are Ryan's actions, but when I'm working for a company, they don't see it as like Ryan. They see it as an entire organization. So if one person's dropping the ball, whatever the dropping the ball might be, the entire organization has dropped the ball. If the guy in the office drops the ball, when I get there and I get there a half an hour late because what the guy in the office told them, they don't care about the guy in the office. They care about me because I'm the one in front of them. And they're going to go on a review and they're going to write a review about the entire company about how we were late. Doesn't matter that the guy in the office made a mistake. It matters that collectively we've all now fucked up. So be mindful about talking about like upper management in front of customers. You wouldn't really want to do that theoretically. What else? Anything else I can think of? Swearing, a lot of swearing in front of customers over the years. Like I'm not a big believer in that at all. You gotta be really careful about like swearing. You can get to a point where you're comfortable with people, where like you start to have more of a friendship than a business relationship, and then you can kind of like tone it, take your foot off the gas a little bit, start swearing a little bit here and there. But like you gotta be real careful. You also gotta be careful with the words you use. Like not all swears are created equal, obviously. The things you talk about specifically, I've heard some people say some really, really over the top, inappropriate shit in front of customers over the years, like really over the top. Whether it revolved around political shit, that's on over the last 6-7 years, that's become a bigger thing. Every once in a while, someone say something race related, which obviously is fucking a giant no. Obviously, religion. Every once in a long while, someone will say something. People from different areas of the world have different ideas of what's acceptable and what's not. I'll just leave it at that in terms of what you can discuss, and how your ideas, you can freely discuss them. And it's not even necessarily about your ideas, but the ideas of other people and how they don't jive with your ideas. So kind of keep that shit. Don't bring that up on a job. Like if you want to do that in the truck, that's one thing, but don't be doing any of that shit on a job in front of customers for sure. You would never want to talk down. This is another thing I actually see a lot of, not on my jobs, at least that I try to do. I've certainly done it over the years. For 1,000%, I've done it over the years, countless times, inadvertently. And there were sometimes I did it on purpose. But you really don't want to talk down to your employees or make them feel bad in front of the customer. As you get older, one of the things that you take on, if you're even remotely good at your job, is you start to realize that it's no longer just about you, it's about everyone around you. And so you have the opportunity to teach people underneath you in the same way that you were taught when you needed that teaching. And so if you can kind of remember it that way, like, we all get to a certain point where we think we know everything. And now things that were really challenging for us at one point aren't so challenging anymore. And so we think everyone should have that, like I'm as guilty of that as anyone, where I'll walk into a room and I'll look at people and I'll be like, what do you mean you can't disassemble a bed? It's a drill and you go find the right bit for whatever screw you have. There was a time in my life where I looked at that and I was like, I don't know how to do this. What do I do? What do I do? So it's not always easy to remember that you were that person at one point. And it's not, and I do it all the time. I fail at it all the time, where I will expect people to know what I've already learned, and I'll look at them like they're morons because they don't know. Even though I know in the back of my head that at one point I was that person who didn't know, and someone had to teach me. But you would never want to do that in front of a customer if you can avoid it. You want to project an air of confidence at all points. So if your employee doesn't know how to do something, that's completely fine. They're not supposed to know how to do everything. Nobody knows how to do everything. The people who are older and who have been doing it longer should theoretically know more, which is why they're there typically, and also why it's their responsibility to teach the younger guys, because at some point those younger guys are then going to have to teach someone else. So if you need to do that in front of people, make sure that you're doing it in a manner that is building people up, letting them know it's acceptable to not know how to do something. The key is not that you think that you know how to do everything. The key is that you need to know that you have to figure out a way how to do it. So you don't need to know. You need to go ask someone, or you need to look it up online, or you need to be willing to say, hey, I don't know how to do this. I got to go find an instruction manual, or I got to go Google it or something. That's the key. Don't break anyone down in front of customers, specifically your employees or guys that you're working with. It just makes you all look bad. It doesn't make you look good. Some people think that because I know everything, if I point out that other people don't know everything, it makes me look good. It doesn't make you look good. It makes you look like a fucking jackass. What makes you look good is pulling someone aside and saying, hey, I'm going to teach you how to do this. And then you can teach them, and we're all going to be successful. That's part of being a leader, or upper management, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. So don't do that. Don't break down people. That tends to be something I see a lot of, specifically when people get upset in the moving business. Like if you've been on a long day, been on I've been on countless 14-hour days in my time, and by the time the 11th hour starts coming around, people start losing their shit. Their frustrations start to come out. They're sick of dealing with shit. They don't want to have to fucking deal with someone not knowing how to do something, because when you're that guy, unfortunately, you have to do all your own shit, and then you also sometimes have to teach other people how to do it. And there are times where it gets frustrating. You don't want to do it. That's just it is what it is. So you can get frustrating. I've seen guys lose it on other people, and basically call them names, or call them morons, or like talk down to them, or make it seem as if like they're babysitting them, whatever the case may be. And it's just so deflating, like I've seen it happen. I've done it myself before. I've seen how people have reacted when I've done it, and it breaks the spirit of a human being. Literally, we can watch them break in front of you, and they want to get away from you, and I don't blame them, obviously. I've had it happen to me, and it's the same reaction. I want to get away from that person. I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good about them. I don't feel good about the situation. So don't do that, obviously. All right, well, that's pretty much all I can think of for the time being. I hope you guys found some useful nuggets in this video. If you did, if you could like and subscribe, I would appreciate it. And also, if you don't, or if you need to get a hold of me, my contact information on the back end of the video, email address, and website. Thank you for listening, guys. I appreciate it.